setting a proper motivation which consists of 3 parts: refuge field, visualize Buddha Shakyamuni's holiness, and all enlightened beings in front of you. And how you visualize them? Visualize them as your mothers, and you are the child coming home demoralized, and your parents are waiting there. They are like your parents waiting there to give you full love, affection, attention, and so forth. And bodhicitta field, visualize the two kind parents on the 2 sides, and all the family members and all general sentient beings around you. And here you are the mother, and all sentient beings, they are coming home, demoralized from the school, and you are there to give full love, affection, attention, and so forth. And the purpose of this class, unlike many other studies, the purpose of this class is to learn how to discover ultimate treasure of happiness that exists within each one of us. And knowing that this treasure is obscured by the mental defilements. Like the gold when mixed with the soil in the ore, you don't see the gold, although it is there, but it is not visible. Likewise, ultimate treasure of happiness, the Buddha nature that exists within each one of us. What it exists, we don't see it because that is obscured by the mental defilements. And the mental defilements are of 2 kinds, the gross and the subtle. And the gross, also referred to as afflictive obscurations, the presence which obscures our mind from achieving nirvana, freedom from samsara. And the cognitive obscuration, the subtle one, the presence which obscures us from achieving Buddhahood. And the way and manner in which we cleanse our mind of the mental defilements is by resorting to the wisdom of emptiness to cleanse our wisdom of emptiness, motivated by renunciation to cleanse the mind of the afflictive obscurations, and the same wisdom of emptiness motivated by renunciation plus bodhicitta to cleanse our mind of the cognitive obscurations. And the wisdom which we are to employ is the wisdom of emptiness, which we study on the basis of the 400 verses by Acharya Aryadeva. So with that in mind, and imagining that you are leading this group and all sentient beings are joining you, including your 2 parents. Page 7. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, those of you who do not have this book, just raise your hands. Just raise your hands, keep raising your hands. More. Raise your hands, those who do not have this book. Okay, page 7. Sanje jodo soge chonamla chanjo bardo dane gyabso che bage jinso gebe sonam dola benjir sanje du bara sho sanje jodo soge chonamla chanjo bardo dane gyabso che bage jinso gebe sonam ge dola benjir sanje du bara sho sanje jodo soge chonam Chanjo bardo dani gyabso che dage jinso gebe sonamge dola benjire sangye do barai sho. Okay, let's read the meaning of the mantra before we start the mantra. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well as taught by the great seer. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum desham tathagato yavatat desham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetum desham tathagato yavatat desham chayo evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Okay, let's turn to page 17, Heart Sutra Mantra. As recite the mantra, if possible, as much as possible, we need to have the understanding of this mantra. Dhyataum gade gade para gade parasam gade bodhiswaha. And this mantra is constituted of the 5 parts, indicating the five parts, indicating the ways or the stages to achieve enlightenment. Gade gade para gade parasam gade bodhiswaha. So as we recite this, of course, the detailed explanation one has to learn later on. But for the time being, just imagine that Buddha Shakyamuni is exhorting us thus: don't remain in the fears of samsara, come to his ultimate happiness. And you hearing this melodious voice of the Buddha Shakyamuni, you then inspire your two parents, all of family members, and all dear sentient beings, informing them that this is what a compassionate teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, is instructing us, or is advising us. Let us not remain in the fears of samsara anymore. Let us all go together. Let us all go towards enlightenment, the ultimate happiness. And all the sentient beings, all dear sentient beings, you hearing this, and they then happily join you in this journey of enlightenment. With that in mind, let's recite this 7 times. Dhyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasangati Bodhiswaha. 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 Okay, next page 19, 8 verses of mind training. I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama oftentimes saying that he recites these 8 verses of mind training every day. So from what we can see, the content matter of this text, we see that this is primarily to cultivate and to boost our say the unconditional love towards others, bodhicitta. And we see that the counterforce of the bodhicitta is anger, is self-referential ego, is the self-centered attitude. And if you think very carefully in our life, in our own life, same for me also, for each one of us here, in our life we see that whenever we have some problems, somehow they're connected, linked with the self-centered attitude, somehow that is connected. And of course we are not to deny the contribution made by the external factors, but external factors, when in combination, when combined with the internal factors, such as the self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude, the anger, the self-centered attitude, then we see that the miseries invariably arise, So, one thing that we have to demarcate ourselves from from others who are not exposed to dharma is that we need to be able to pinpoint, or we need to be able to point to our internal factors as responsible for our own unhappiness. Any unhappiness, any experience of unhappiness comes, the blame should instantly go towards the internal self-centered attitude and self-grasping ignorance. And of course we need to identify what these two are so well, and then must gain conviction, not just blind faith. Must gain conviction that somehow all my problems, they're connected with these two things. For any reason, some problems there, you must be able to identify that somehow related to our own, the internal factors, the two things. So this, the Heart Sutra which we recited, the mantra which we recited, Heart Sutra, so that is primarily to boost our the wisdom to counteract the self-grasping ignorance. And what we're doing now, it was mind training, that is primarily to counteract the self-centered attitude. So we see that when we are being compassionate towards others, or when we tend to give the victory towards others and so forth, oftentimes ordinary people, they see you as weak. But in actuality, this is not the case. The opposite of this kindness towards others, showing kindness towards others, is the anger. And ordinary people, they see the anger as the sign of strength. In actuality, anger is a sign of weakness. Anger is a clear indication that we become desperate. Desperate means we are left with no choice. When we are left with no choice means you don't have the freedom for any kind of, say, the means of overcoming a problem. So this is the indication of vulnerability, our weakness. It's not a sign of strength. So anger, and we see that the main trigger for the anger is a self-centered attitude. So the more we're able to subdue the self-centered attitude, the more the anger will be subsided. The more the anger subsides, automatically it leaves room for compassion to grow. As the compassion grows within us, the accompanying feeling of the compassion is always very pleasant, gentle, peace, and say the tranquility. So the wise people will embrace it was mind training as so precious instructions, and those who are not exposed to these precious teachings, they may not be so keen on this. They may see that this is something which is so self-denial and so forth. So the point is that we need to make a distinction between the two things: self-confidence and the self-referential ego. So oftentimes we equate the two things. When we boost our self-confidence, we also boost our automatically self-referential ego automatically gets boosted. And as we subdue our self-referential ego, and self-confidence also tends to go down. Unfortunately, this is what is happening. So now, as a mark of a good practitioner, how can we see that someone is a good practitioner? Is, first of all, to distinguish the two things. One should be able to distinguish the two things: self-confidence and self-referential ego. And then the second step is to subdue the ego, and at the same time boost our self-confidence. So if this happens, because of self-confidence, you're forever fearless and you are very happy. And because of the referential ego is not there, the mental disturbance all come to an end. So this is a very powerful, the practical, the thing for us to do, reading the 8 verse mind training and reflecting on the meanings and see how much in our day-to-day life, see how much we can practice it. Okay, so with that in mind, let's turn to page 19 and read the 8 verse mind training together. With the determination to achieve the highest aim, for the benefit of all sentient beings, which surpasses even the wish-fulfilling gem, may hold them dear at all times. Whenever I interact with someone, may I view myself as the lowest amongst all, and from the very depths of my heart, respectfully hold others as superior. In all my deeds, may I probe into my mind, and as soon as mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly confront them and avert them. When I see beings of unpleasant character, oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as if I had discovered a jewel treasure. When others out of jealousy treat me wrongly with abuse, slander, and scorn, may I take upon myself the defeat and offer to others the victory. When someone whom I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me in extremely hurtful ways, may I regard him still as my precious teacher. In brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly, may I quietly take upon myself all hurts and pains of my mothers. May all these remain undefiled by the stains of 8 mundane concerns, and may I recognize all things as illusions, devoid of clinging, be released from bondage. From my 2 collections, vast space that I've amassed, from working with Acharya at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eyes blinded by ignorance. Keep the page now. Timer. Okay, since there are some who are more new or first time comer, I think it would be good if we do a little bit of meditation. Let's say 5 minutes meditation, and this is primarily to habituate. First of all, be exposed to what meditation is, and then those of us here who are already exposed to meditation, for us to then actually practice it. The 2 things. For this, a quick instruction, particularly for those who are beginners, quick instruction. The meditation, there are so many kinds of meditation. What we're going to do now here is a very simple meditation, breathing meditation. And keep in mind that within breathing meditation, there are so many kinds. What we're going to do is a simple one, and yet very helpful in our practice, and to quell our mind, of the mental disturbance. Okay, so the breathing meditation which we're going to do here consists of 4 points. 1 is the body posture. Number 2 is the focal point. Number 3 is identifying the errors of meditation, errors of meditation. Number 4 is applying the remedies to overcome the errors. 4 points to keep in mind. 1, the body posture. Body posture wise, if possible, sit cross-legged, if possible. And should you think of doing the meditation more often in your life, or on a daily basis, or more often, it will be very helpful if you can learn how to sit cross-legged. This is extremely helpful, because this will maintain the freshness of your mind. And for the cross-legged, you put your left foot on your right thigh and the right foot on your left thigh. This is how we do. But if you feel it painful, you can try it, not here in your own house or in your own room. You can try it, and as it starts paining, then again you release your legs to get relief. Once you are relieved, again you bring it back. So this is how we slowly learn how to sit cross-legged. And sitting cross-legged will have a tremendous benefit to maintain the alertness of your mind, freshness of mind. 1. Number 2 is the backbone upright. This is extremely important. Only if you have the backache problem, then I would suggest that sit always backbone upright without leaning against a support. This is so important. The moment we lean against a support, what we feel is that we feel a little lethargic, little heavy, and then we are more prone to fall asleep. So for that purpose, when doing meditation, it is good if you could sit upright without leaning against any support. Then number 3 is your head tilted forward a little bit, but it's not really mandatory. Tilted forward a little bit. And eyes not closed. Eyes not closed. Eyes half open, 45 degrees cast down. Then the tip of the tongue should touch the upper palate to avoid excessive accumulation of saliva in the mouth. And the tip and the lips in their natural course. Breathe naturally. Don't impose on the breath. Then your right hand on the left hand, right hand on the left hand, and the tips of the two thumbs joining, forming triangle, and the two thumbs standing, and forming triangle. Place the two hands on the laps in the restful state. Okay, this is your body posture. 1. Number 2 is focal point. What are you going to meditate? What are you going to meditate? This is the point. So here, because there is the breathing meditation, a specialized breathing meditation, there are 2 things to keep in mind as part of the focal point. 1, visualize white dot, that's a white circular dot, 1 mm or 2 mm in diameter between your nose and upper lip. Visualize that dot between your nose and upper lip. Multitasking. What you visualize from mind there, count your breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Cycle 1, breathe in, breathe out. Cycle 2. This is how we are going to have the focal point. 2 things happening together. 1, visualizing the dot, and number 2, counting the breath. 2 things happening simultaneously. This is quite challenging initially. And meanwhile, your eyes should be open and 45 degrees cast down. It is not your eyes which is meditating. It should be your mental consciousness meditating. For example, if somebody scratches you from behind, your eyes are not looking at it. It is your mental consciousness which is feeling it. So that mind which feels the scratch behind, that mind is the one which is meditating. You are not your eye consciousness. So in a way, this meditation should help you to acquire a skill to separate your eye consciousness and the mental consciousness. So later on, through the experience with eye consciousness, you can just cast your eyes anywhere you like, but the mental consciousness can still be meditating. Okay, this is what we need to be, what we should be doing. Number 3, identifying the errors of meditation. In the meditation, there are 2 most frequent errors, or the flaws of meditation. One is mental excitement, and the other one is mental laxity. Mental excitement is when your mind shoots above the equilibrium state. It gets scattered here and there. This mental excitement. And the other one is opposite of that, which is mental laxity, where your mind feels lethargic, heavy, your mind feels sleepy, drowsy, and inserviceable. So these 2 are the errors of meditation. So should any of these 2 things happen, then you go for number 4, applying remedies to overcome the errors. And the remedy is twofold. One is mental introspection, and the other one is mental laxity, the mental mindfulness. What is introspection? Say your mind, which is like a pet dog. If you lost a pet dog, you first go in search of the pet dog. Going for search of the pet dog is like the introspection. So when you see that your mind is not on the focal point, it is already distracted or is in a lax state, then you apply the introspection. Go in search of the mind. This is the introspection. Once you see that your mind is already distracted or in a lax state, then the job of the introspection is done. Next, it is like finding the dog. Job of the introspection done. Then it's the job of the rope. Tie the dog with the rope, bring it home, and tie it to the pillar at your home. Likewise, when you see that your mind is already distracted or in a lax state, then you apply the rope of the mindfulness. Job of the introspection is done. Next is the job of the mindfulness. The rope of the mindfulness. With this, bring the mind back to the intended object of the meditation. This is mindfulness. Okay, this is what we're going to do for 5 minutes. And others who already are familiar with your whatever meditation that you're doing, you can do that 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we are on page 28. Okay, this book, 400 on the middle way. Raise your hands if you do not have this book. Okay, yes. Okay, anyone else? You all have it? Good. Okay, this chapter 10. This chapter 10 is a chapter. This is the very important chapter is to introduce us to the concept of the emptiness of the person, emptiness of the self. Emptiness of self, and we already did the first stanza of this. After being into the studies of, particularly the studies of the texts written by the Nalanda masters, and being exposed to Dharma for a long time, we should be able to see the various the stanzas as more like a big instruction of everything. For example, say the stanza which is oftentimes being used by the great masters, which seems to be so simple, and yet if you go into the more detailed studies of the stanza, we see that there are so many things to be unfolded from the stanza. In Tibetan it is Dikpachi Amnichashin, Geva Pusum Sobarchu, Rangisim Yonsu Dinesangitim. This is the Tibetan stanza, and most of you already know this by heart. Commit no evil, accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible, tame your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Seems so simple. So someone who has no exposure to Buddhism, they just listen to this stanza, they see that this is very true. And then those who are more deeply into philosophy, again they study this, they listen to this, they see a great wealth of the depth and the knowledge there in this stanza. So when it says, commit no evil, accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible, subdue your mind, this is the teaching of the Buddha. So, first of all, in the first place, whether somebody is a believer or somebody is a non-believer, somebody is a Buddhist, a Christian, scientist, or the environmentalist, or animal activist, or social activist, whoever we are, if we ask ourselves a basic question, finally, what is my life? What is the purpose of my life? What is my life all about? This is the first question, right? And so for us to come to a center, come to Tibet House, to go to Tushita Center, to go to this center, that center, so forth, the first question, in the first place, why do we have to go to these centers? Or you go for a job. Why do I have to go to this job? So for this, some of us may think that, by going to, okay, I'm not really interested in the Buddhist centers, I'm more interested in my job. Why? So that I get more money. And some people, that job is more interesting because it involves adventure. I can travel a lot. I like traveling. And some people may say that, okay, with this job, eventually I'll become a very influential bureaucrat, or I'll become a very influential politician. So this is how people go into different things. So when you ask the first question, what do you seek in your life? This is the first question that we seek, that we ask. And to this, the answer is variant. They are diverse. You see the diversity of the answers. But when I ask the second question, Why do you need money? Why do you need power? Why do you need to be a bureaucrat? Why do you need why do you need the adventure? And so forth. Then the answer all comes down, boils down to the same answer. That is, so by going for adventures, but then I get happiness. By being, I will be so happy if I become very powerful politically. If I become powerful as a bureaucrat, I will be happy if I'm rich. So like this, we see that finally, answer all boils down to the same point. That is, I want happiness. Now the next question is, the happiness that we get in this life, for example, say, if we recount our own life, say maybe from the people who are here, the youngest would be in your 20, 21, 22, maybe. Okay, same. The last 20 years of our experience, the last 40 years of experience, or say last 50 years, whatever however old you are, so the last however many years of your life experience, we see that we had so many kinds of experience. Some are pleasant, some are very unpleasant. And in fact, overall speaking, we see that the pains override our happiness. This is reality. And at times, we come across people, in fact, not just someone else, ourselves also, we ourselves, that when we encounter a situation where we go through a pain of having lost a very near and dear one, and the pain is so excruciating, it's so painful, so painful. So this pain, in fact, one moment of such pain is good enough to nullify all the past happy moments. This is a fact. And then eventually our own leaving this world. So all this, when we think about these, the pain is so excruciating, so painful. And so before actually we go through that, then seeing the loss of near and dear ones, it is extremely painful. And oftentimes people see that, what is life? Life is totally just meaningless. Okay, so there, we should not give up. In fact, it might be a very good opportunity for us to explore what's the real meaning of life. What am I seeking? I'm seeking happiness, no doubt. The next question. The happiness that I got thus far, is that something good enough? Or that is so superfluous, that is so superficial, this is so the surface, they're so shallow, there's nothing really there, there's no depth there. So what are we really looking for then? We're looking for a very reliable happiness, which the pains that we go through cannot override, cannot supersede. Okay, then the next question. Whether or not such a reliable happiness is possible, this is the question. Okay, so for this, we see that if we explore a little bit, it would be very good if the life experience that we went through in our life, the good things, bad things, so forth, it doesn't matter. There are so many, the bad experiences also. Just bring to the surface those bad experiences, the good experiences, just bring them all to your memory, clear memory, bring them to your recollection, and then see that what triggered those bad experiences. Just explore what triggered those bad experiences. So I remember there was I met someone, and the person said that person had to meet with someone, and the person that this person should be meeting, the person is not feeling so comfortable with. So the person said, I really don't want to meet with this person. And then if you don't meet with this person, then you cannot do the work. The work that you have to be done has to be done through that person. You cannot do that. And then, if you keep avoiding this, then you will never learn how to tackle such a situation. And in this life, how many more of such situations can arise? We never know. There could be more and more situations arising. And this life, the next life, next life, and so forth, we see that we can never overcome such a situation. So therefore, we have to deal with such a situation and then acquire a skill whereby this problem is no more problem for us. You overcome one problem, and then all the hundreds and thousands of millions of such the problems to be bound to be faced by you eventually, they all are going to be erased simply because of you learning one skill, acquiring one skill to overcome that problem. That suffices solving millions of problems in the future. This is a great opportunity for us. So even if you had very sour, very painful experience in this life, just bring to light to your recollection and then just explore what are the causes of these. As said by the Buddha, Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava. All these miserable experiences, they don't come randomly. They all came by dependence on the causes. And what are the causes? Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Deshan Tadakado Yavatat. What the causes are, what are the causes of these miseries are, they're all indicated by the Buddha, they are all taught by the Buddha. What was that teaching which the Buddha gave to identify the cause of the miseries? So the Buddha taught that all miseries, they arise from the causes in the form of contaminated karmas. All the miseries, they are the result of the contaminated karmas. And the contaminated karmas, they arise from what? They arise from the afflictions, disturbing emotions, such as attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth. And these afflictions, they arise from where? They all arise from self-centered, self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance complemented by self-centered attitude. So in short, all miseries, they arise from contaminated karmas. Contaminated karmas arise from the afflictions, and the afflictions arise from self-grasping ignorance complemented by self-centered attitude. Okay, so now, if you don't want miseries, we need to know how to cut the contaminated karmas. And if we don't want contaminated karmas, we need to know how to cut afflictions. If we don't want the afflictions, we need to know how to cut the self-grasping ignorance. And of the two, self-grasping ignorance complemented by self-centered attitude, even if the self-centered attitude is not removed, but if self-grasping ignorance is removed, then self-centered attitude cannot do anything. It is like, say, the striking a matchstick against what? The matchbox, the phosphorus, right? Huh? Striking surface. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's say it is only through the matchstick and the striking surface, right? Phosphorus striking surface, right? Only when these two come together, then it gives the spark and the flame, right? So whereas if the phosphorus striking surface, if that is missing, simply through the matchstick, it does not give rise to the flame. Likewise, self-centered attitude, which is much more difficult to uproot, to eradicate, but by eradicating the self-grasping ignorance, then self-centered attitude per se cannot give rise to the afflictive emotions, and because of which contaminated karmas will come to an end, because of which all our miseries will come to an end. Okay, so finally what we want is, we want happiness. We don't want miseries. If we don't want miseries, what are the form of the miseries? What are the form of miseries? So, anyone who likes to share with us as to what kind of miseries you dislike? What kind of miseries you confront with? Any examples? Any you like to share with us? Anyone? Very quick. What kind of the pains, miseries, or anxiety and so forth? Whatever. No miseries.
Fear of losing near ones.
The the fear of losing near and dear ones. Particularly, say for example, I remember myself, and later on I discovered that it is much more the same with many of others. When I was young, I may be age, I think 10, 11, 12. So when I was in my father's house, and sometimes in the afternoon, my father would simply start dozing off and leaning against the wall, and he would start dozing off. And then me as a very young boy, and a fear came to me, just randomly seeing my father lying there, and then I would go to check his heartbeat and the lungs, see if he's breathing. Because I was so attached to my father that I feared that I might lose him. Right? So the fear of losing near and dear ones, this is an acute fear, acute pain. Right? Okay, so in short, so say the fear of losing the job, the fear of not getting a job, the fear of, say, meeting with any accident. So we see that our life is full of fears. Our life is full of fears. We don't want to fear, number one. A fear, if you really have the manifest experience of fear, it consumes our immune system. Health-wise, it consumes the immune system immensely. And once the immune system goes down, what happens? You can have any illness so easily. Okay, so for that purpose, fear must be reduced. Okay, now how to make the fearlessness? How do we have this fearlessness? This is one question. Then number two is what we seek joy. We seek joy. And the joy, if you reach a point whereby your fears, they become zero. Your fear becomes zero, and your joy becomes 100%. This is the complete meaning of life. Your fear comes down to zero, and your joy reaches to the heightened state. That is the complete meaning of the life. This is what exactly what we're seeking. Whether you're Buddhist, non-Buddhist, whether scientists, whether Tibetan, the Indians, whoever you are, we all seek this. This is the reality. This is a fact. Okay, with this, the Buddha said, commit no evils. Commit no evil. Meaning that all the fears, they arise from committing evils. All the fear that we go through, all the anxiety, tension, pressure, and so forth that we experience, they all come from committing evils. So commit no evil. Because we don't want fear, eradicate the cause of the fear. Don't engage in the cause of the fear. Cause of fear is committing evils. So the Buddha said, commit no evil. Because you don't want fear. And the fear arises from the evil, committing evil as a cause. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava. Dharma of the fear arises from hetu, the cause, the evil as the cause, commit no evil. And what we want is we want ample of happiness. We want a wealth of happiness. If you want the wealth of happiness again arises from its cause. And the cause of the wealth of the happiness is the virtues. Accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible. This is number two. If you want happiness, accumulate virtues. Eliminate evil and engage in virtues. Okay, how should I do that? How should I eliminate the evil, and how can I adopt the virtues? Adopting virtue and the discarding evil. Evil and the virtue, evil to be discarded and the virtue to be adopted, both are mental states. So, tame your mind. Both are mental states. So, you should train your mind, which is so habituated, addicted to engaging in evil, train it that it abstains from engaging in evil, which is not at all trained to engaging in virtue, now exercise. Make your mind more active to engage in virtues. This is by taming the mind. Tame the mind to stop engaging in virtue, with the evil, and to adopt virtue. This is what we have to do by taming the mind. Tame the mind. So if you do that, that is what the Buddha has to offer. This is the teaching of the Buddha. This is so beautiful. Okay, now with this, to go a little deeper, okay, if evil to be discarded and the virtue to be adopted, both are mental experiences. So first of all, let us try to do with avoiding the evil. So this evil, what is that evil? The evil constitutes the contaminated karmas. Evil constitutes the contaminated karmas. 10 non-virtuous actions. 3 physical, 4 verbal, and 3 mental. What are the 3 physical? What are the 3 physical non-virtuous karma? Stealing, killing, sexual misconduct, the 3 things. And the 4 verbal, what are they? Lying, slandering or divisive thought, the talks or the slandering, number 2. Number 3 is harsh words. Number 4 is idle gossip, right? Okay, telling lies. See how much you can refrain from telling lies. It does not mean that, I went to Tibet house, then we learn about the refraining from the evil, refraining from evil, coming to know evils, coming to know 10 non-virtuous actions. So from today onwards, I should be 100% clean. It is, if this is that easy, just by going for one lesson, and then if we can change ourselves, then by now, no sentient being should be left in samsara, right? It should be, if that is that easy. It's not easy. At least make a commitment to a mind that this is something, at least mentally don't acknowledge that they are something good. Acknowledge that they are something bad. Even this much of acknowledgement is so precious, so precious. This will take us to the second step. So this is how we progress. Gate is never gate bodhiswaha. It's always gate, para samgate, borsam. Okay, if we are to grade two persons, one who is already 70% pure, one who is just 20% pure, if you are to grade the 2 persons. 70% pure, the person is not progressing any further, always remaining 70%. Other person 20% pure, the person is improving every year. 1% improving, 21, 22, 23, 24. In the eyes of the ordinary people, unless you reach 50%, people will consider you as an evil person, as a bad person. Right? Only if you cross 50%, 55, 60, people say, he's very decent, she's very decent, she's very nice, he's very nice. But in the eyes of someone who is so matured, in the eyes of someone who is so mature, in that person's eyes, the person who is just 20% clean, pure, and then taking one step, progressing one step, 1% every year, that person will be valued much more than the person who is already clean 70%, not improving anymore. Because the progress is so precious. Progress. As long as there is a progress happening, this is amazing. This is what we are not to undermine. That is so precious. Progress. So see how much we can progress. And for progress, don't expect it to happen as a blessing from a guru. It will never happen. It has only, at the most, the guru can advise us. He can give us the blessings. He can give us advice. But, for example, these books, Acharya Aryadeva is one of the best gurus. Nagarjuna. And today we have His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And all this enlightenment and the Buddha Shakyamuni. So they at best can teach us how to identify the cause of the miseries and how to get rid of these things and so forth. So it is for us to have the progress, for us to go through this gade para, some gade bodhiswa, we have to have a progress. So for the progress, we need effort. From our side, there must be effort. And effort, what kind of effort? This we're going to discuss a little bit later. Okay, so now from this, what we need to know is that, say the evils constitute the 10 known virtuous actions. Well, of course, it's innumerable. In the Abhidhamma Kosh by Acharya Aryadeva Damdul, he very clearly indicated that with the millions of versions of evils can very broadly categorized or summarized into the 10 non-virtuous actions, right? Okay, so the 3 physical, the 4 verbal, right? 4 verbal, say 10 lies, and then say slandering, divisive words, to divide, to split, to create a split between 2 people who are very friendly, or unnecessary, say, friction between 2 people who are just who don't have friction till now, just splitting 2 people, 2 groups, and so forth. So this constitute the slandering or divisive words, and then harsh words. Okay, harsh words. Just see how much we can avoid that, and particularly the tendency for us to be engaged in harsh words is pertaining to our parents, oftentimes, because I don't know about the fathers, the mothers, no doubt they are the first victim of the harsh words from the children, particularly when they grow to age 14, 15, 16, 17, and then plus 20 plus, it can become worse. So be very careful. If your parents, in the first place, if your parents, you are very lucky. In my case, I lost my mother when I was 5 years old, and then I was fortunate to have my father for a little longer. But my mother, even though I make commitment that I will not use harsh words against my mother. I will be kind towards my mother. What do you do? Where can I get my mother now? Since 5 years old, already gone. So therefore, those who already have your parents, you are very lucky. So don't think that your mother, your father will be with you for the next 100 years. Don't expect that. So your lifetime, your time span with your parents can be as short. Why not we live happily while you're with them? And so why are we unnecessarily creating, say, pain on someone who has given the most love to you when you needed them the most? When we are young, when we needed the love and affection from our parents the most, when we needed the love and affection from others the most when we are young, the parents they give us that. And now the harsh words we use against whom? Not for sure, not against our enemies. Not against our enemies. If you say harsh words against your enemies, enemies will likewise say high voice, and then you don't dare to do that. But to your poor mother, and in some cases also fathers, then we tend to use the harsh words. This is very unfortunate. So why not we bring a little bit of change? That, okay, now this has been something which has been happening. I will make sure that this also happen. I will just make them happy now. So, harsh words. And then the idle gossip. Okay, just useless, senseless talks. Just avoid them. And the 3 mental. What are the 3 mental? Covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. Covetousness. So what is the difference between the covetousness? Some people, they get mixed up with the 2 things. Covetousness versus attachment. Attachment versus covetousness. Attachment for food and covetousness for food. Attachment for car, covetousness for car. So the distinction, attachment is a very broad category of, say, wanting to have something else, and that is attachment. And covetousness is something very specialized version of attachment. It is a form of attachment, but it's a very specialized version. It is feeling attached to the possessions of others, possessions which are already owned by someone else. Because that is much worse than the ordinary attachment. Because something which is already owned by someone else, if you crave for that, then this can create so much of chaos, so much of problems, fights, and so forth in the world. All these, what is happening today, say the South China Sea, Doglam, yeah, all these things which is already to possess someone else, then another country is wanting to have it. Then all these fights, wars, they all happen because of the covetousness. So the covetousness is very dangerous. It is for this reason that it is classified as a separate, non-negative, the karma. And then the ill will. Ill will is wanting to harm others. Okay. And then the wrong view. Wrong view is disregarding the law of karma. And this is the view which disregards the law of karma. So these are the evils, 10 non-virtuous actions. Of course, there are so many non-virtuous karmas, non-virtuous karmas, but if we can guard ourselves from engaging in the 10 non-virtuous actions, even that is a great, great accomplishment and success in the Dharma practice. So, this is the evil. Now the next question, how can I do away with these 10 non-virtuous actions? For that, rather than be very naive and just jumping to avoid 10 non-virtuous actions, see how they arise. Look for the cause. For example, say if there's moisture coming from the walls, if there's moisture coming from the wall which is so harmful to your body, your room, the wall of your room is so harmful to your body, and then it's wet there, then you try to plaster that with the waterproof cement. Or the next day, now it's coming from there, again you plaster there. If you just go for symptomatic treatment, if you don't go for the actual treatment of the cause of the problem, then it doesn't really serve the purpose. Then one day it'll become wet there, one day it'll become wet there. It's just endlessly many problem. So what should you do? If you're wise, you will track the cause of where this water is coming from. Where this water is coming from, you'll track. You may discover a pipeline, a broken pipeline somewhere inside the wall. If you discover that, you just fix that. Then you don't have to worry about having to plaster all the other things. So all the other things will become dry on its own. So likewise, if you don't want to engage in the 10 non-virtuous actions, of course, try our best. Try our best what can symptomatically be treated. What can, the best we can to avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions, directly try it. Meanwhile, our job is not just to remove the problems that very day, but see how we can cut the root. So for the root, we have to identify the roots are. And the contaminant karmas, they all arise from the afflictions. And afflictions, there are so many kinds, yet broadly speaking, there are 3. Attachment, aversion, and ignorance. The 3. Broadly speaking, somehow all afflictions can all be subsumed under these 3 categories. Okay. Now, even these three afflictions, we come to know that somehow they are rooted to the self-grasping ignorance. Again, with the same thing, attachment, anger, and ignorance. Attachment, aversion, ignorance. See how much we can avoid. We can apply the remedies. The remedies, for example, for attachment, we see about the impurities and so forth. For the aversion, we practice compassion, love, and so forth. These remedies, see if you can apply them to the best we can. Meanwhile, we also think of uprooting the cause, the ultimate cause of the afflictions. So finally, what is the ultimate cause of these afflictions? Self-grasping ignorance, complemented by self-centered attitude. Okay, this is so important. I'm deliberately adding this word, complemented by self-centered attitude. If the self-centered attitude is missing, then self-grasping ignorance per se cannot give rise to the attachment and aversion and all the other active, the afflictions and contaminant karmas always stop. So self-centered attitude must be there to complement, to complement the self-grasping ignorance. Okay, now we see that finally for the good of this life, the next life, the next life, till enlightenment, the wisest thing to do is to exterminate the self-grasping ignorance. The next question, yes?
Why without the complement of self-centered attitude, why self-grasping ignorance?
Per se cannot give rise to that. Okay, so this is good question. The question is self-grasping ignorance only when complemented by self-centered attitude will give rise to attachment, aversion, and so forth. Whereas in the absence, but it is never the case. It is never the case that there is self-grasping ignorance when the self-centered attitude is absent. It's never the case. But let's hypothetically create a situation where somebody has self-grasping ignorance, but self-centered attitude is totally missing, absent. So in such situation, the fact is that this person will never have attachment and aversion. The question is why? Right? This is your question. Okay, did you follow the question? Okay, to this, we have to know that attachment means what? When we speak about attachment, there should be two things. What you attach to and who gets attached. Who gets attached? What gets the object to which you attach to and the subject which is attached to the object. There are two things. Right? So, what's the subject which is attached to that? The self, I. Right? So when we feel attached to, for example, they say good food. When you feel attached to good food, is it that when I'm, do you want others to also feel attached to this good food? No. I should have this good food. What about others? No, they should not know about it. They should not know that there's a good food here. Right? I want it. What is this? I want it, don't give it to others. This is known as self-centered attitude. So this self-centered attitude wants good things towards you. Good things towards you. This is the self-centered attitude. So only when that is there, then the person will have the desire to have it. And likewise, running away. Who's running away? I am running. I should run away. Aversion. Aversion is running away from undesirable objects. I should run away. So why are you running away? Because this I is so important. And this object is quite scary. It can create harm on me. So I should run away from it. So this I is so important. So the self-centered attitude must be complemented. Okay. Now, with the self-centered attitude, but without, so thus far what the situation created is that self-grasping ignorance is there, but if the self-centered attitude is not there, how it will not contribute to give rise to attachment, aversion, and so forth. Now the next is, let's say there is self-centered attitude, but there is no self-grasping ignorance. Is this possible? When there is self-centered attitude, but without self-grasping ignorance. Is it yes over there?
You mentioned earlier that in the case of arahats who are able to overcome self-grasping ignorance, but they haven't overcome self-centered attitude and cultivated bodhicitta, so they haven't achieved more. I mean, they still have self-centered attitude, but they
Very good. The arahats, Sharvaka arahats, Pradipudha arahats, they don't have the self-grasping ignorance. They already eradicated the self-grasping ignorance. They still have the self-centered attitude, right? So, because they don't have the self-grasping ignorance is responsible for what? Responsible for keeping us intact in the fear of samsara. Because self-grasping ignorance is cut, they are free from the fears of samsara, right? Good. But they still have the self-centered attitude. And what is the job of the self-centered attitude? What is the job of the self-centered attitude? The job of the self-centered attitude is to stop us from achieving full omniscience or Buddhahood, right? So arahats, not all arahats, Sharvaka arahats and Pratik Buddha arahats, because they still have the self-centered attitude, they could not achieve Buddhahood yet. You getting it? Huh?
Krishna, even Mahayana arhats would have self-centered attitude and not self-grasping.
Don't just say Mahayana arahats. Buddha is also one of the Mahayana arahats.
The bodhisattvas who are 8th Bhumi, 9th and 10th Bhumi, say that we
Okay, so they still have the cognitive obscuration, right? Cognitive obscuration. Self-centered attitude is not exterminated from the root. It's not exterminated from the root. Self-grasping ignorance is already exterminated, but the self-centered attitude is not exterminated from the root, because of which they still are yet to achieve the Buddhahood, right? Okay, now the point is, from this, when the Buddha said, commit no evils, right? Commit no evils. What is second? Accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible. How to do that? Tame your mind. Tame your mind. Tame your mind means the mind which is like monkey, always going after non-virtues. Tame it. The mind which is so lazy, doing virtues. Tame it to be active. Right? The mind which is like a monkey, always going after evil. Tame it to tone down, slow down. The mind which is so lazy, doing what? doing evil or virtues. So lazy doing evils, that's good. If you're lazy doing evils, it's very good. But we are just the opposite. We are so lazy what? Lazy in doing virtues. We are so active in virtues? No, active in non-virtues. So what is the fact that we are so active in engaging in evil, that we have to tone down, slow down, and slowly make it zero. And one is so lazy engaging in virtues, we have to make it more active. Right? We have to make it more active. How to do that? It is through taming the mind. Tame the mind to be less active, engaging in evil, and more active in engaging in virtue. How to tame? You have a question? Yes.
Yes, I may not be aware, but when you say tame your mind, you are creating a distinction between me and my mind.
Yes.
Is there such distinction?
Okay, wonderful. This requires chapter 10. Right? So I'm making a link to this chapter 10, and you are just making the link directly. Thank you. Okay, so your question is the chapter 10 here, right? Okay, so the question is, tame my mind, tame your mind, tame my mind. There's a mind and there's my mind. Is there a distinction between the two things? This is the question. Very good question. Very good. Okay, let's say the table and the top plank of the table. Table, wall, and the wall of the wall and the buildings, the same, the building and the building's wall. Wall, the building, and the building's wall. Are these two different or one? Oh, what's your name? Manoj. Manoj. I wish Manoj was here this morning. This morning we did this, right? Same, the building and the wall of the building. The building and the wall of the building. When we say the building and wall of the building, it gives us the impression that these two are different. Me and my mind. The building and the building's wall, right? You see the similarity? Right? If you remove the wall, if you remove the ceiling, if you remove the floor, building disappears. So, the building and the building's wall, these two are different in the form of building as the whole and the wall as a part. Likewise, me and my mind. Me as the whole and my mind as a part. So this my mind, my body, these two are the two parts put together, then we get a whole, which is known as the I or the self. And this is not this is not objectively different. Mentally, these two are different. Okay, this is what we studied this morning in greater detail. So if Manish is interested, you can listen to the recordings. We have the recordings from this morning, right? Okay, and on top of that, we have, for example, like Debeshta here, we have Naresh there, we have, okay, Rimala there, we have number of the people here. You can also discuss with them. They already learned this. If I go through this again, they will feel bored. They learned it for so many years, right? So I would suggest you to have discussions with them. This is a very important question. Anyway, so what we're going to study from chapter 10, this is exactly what we are to know pertaining to your question. Okay, now tame your mind. Okay, now how to tame my mind, right? How to tame my mind, okay? Tame what? Tame your mind in slowing down and engaging in negativities. How do I slow down? How do I slow down? Okay, say in your dream, let's say, in your dream, right? In your dream, okay, in your dream, you're busy. Okay, in your dream you're busy struggling to fight with the robber. Right? And you're able to hit the robber fell on the ground. And again the robber, and when he or she falls, you're very happy. And then he or she gets up and again hits you and you fall. You are very unhappy. Right? So this is a fluctuation of happiness, misery arises in your dream. You getting it? Okay. Who is going through the experience of the pain, misery in your dream? I. Yes, no? In your dream, you experience the pain? Yes. And who made you go through the pain? Because of that person. Object? You as the subject, I. Likewise, experience of pain that we're going through now, the fear of losing job, the fear of losing our near and dear ones, and so forth. All this, the fear of not getting a job, the fear of someone bullying us, the fear of the landlord kicking us out from the house and so forth, right? Okay. So all these fears, and fear of not getting what you want, all these fears, they are like, I'm not saying that they are like the fear that you're going through in a dream. Okay, for the time being, don't try to think of, say, asking questions. Just follow what I'm saying. Just follow what I'm saying. If you understand it, we will get somewhere. Once you understand it fully, then you can create the questions and you can ask me questions. Okay, so now, say, in this dream, fighting with the person, and then you're winning, you're losing, you're winning, you're losing, and so forth. This is happening. Which means you win, but it's not reliable, it's not stable, it's not reliable. Again, you can lose. Okay. Now, if you want to win, what should you do? You may call a friend to fight with this person. So two can fight with one person, that's easier. Right? Other person may call another person. So that is just endlessly many. So the measures that you resort to in your dream, they are all very unreliable. So if you don't want to have this misery, this problem in the dream, what should you do? Okay, just wake up. Wake up. Then you don't need to worry about having to fight with the person. You don't need to call your friend to fight with this person. Right? You don't have to call the policeman that this person is bullying me. Just wake up. Finish. Okay. Now, when we say that I am suffering, we see ourselves as one solid entity. And this thing is creating problem on me as an object. So there's an object, you solidify the object, you solidify in the dream, you solidify yourself as the real person who is going through the challenges. Actually, you're not going through challenges, you're just lying down in your bed. And then there's the object, your neighbor, is so real and coming to create problem on you. This is all coming from mind or coming from the object? It's all coming from our mind. This is what your mind is dreaming. Yet in the dream, you see them as so real. So real meaning, they're all coming from the object, not coming from the subject. When you see them coming from the object, all this fear, anxiety, tension, then agitation, they all arise when you see things coming from the object. The moment you wake up, when do you come to know that all these things what happen in your dream, they're all coming from your mind? When you will come to know that? In the dream or when you wake up? When you wake up. When you wake up, then you realize that all what happened in the dream, they were all not just coming from my mind. The moment you come to know that they're all coming from my mind, nothing from the object, then all the fear dissolves. So, all our fears, all the fears that we're going through our life, in our life, they all arise because of this distortion of seeing things as objectively real. Objectively real. Now the question is, what could be the next question then? What I'm saying, we can bring an end to our problems, knowing that all problems arise grounded on the belief that everything that is happening is coming from the object. In other words, everything that is happening exists objectively, right? So when you wake up, you come to realize that nothing exists objectively, they all exist subjectively. Subjectively, what from the object? From the object is all empty, right? The moment you discover that from the object is all empty, what happens to the fear? Fear invariably dissolves, right? And how the fear dissolves? By discovering that it's just coming from a mind. And how the fear dissolves in the dream, that 3 people come to support you to fight with the person, right? 3 people come to support you, your brother's 2 friends, they all come to support you to fight with the other person, and the other person ran away. You're free, you're happy or not? You get a relief or not? You get a relief. Which is a more profound relief? The relief that you get in your dream when you see that there are 3 people who are fighting against your enemy, and then the enemy runs away? Or that relief that you get when you wake up, it's just my dream. Which of the 2 relief is more profound? Wake up or in the dream? In the dream, 3 people, they come and they chase away your enemy. Which is more profound? When you wake up. So therefore, when you're half woken up, when you wake up, there are 2 ways of waking up. Half partially woken up and fully woken up. There are 2, right? And when you're partially woken up, it's also not fully. There's still a tinge of fear there. Did you have that experience? Do you have this experience in your dream? You are going through a nightmare. You're going through a nightmare in the dream. Then you can't bear it anymore. And then somehow, I don't know what is the mechanism exactly. So this happened to me so many times. Then I try to wake myself up. And then partially I'm woken up, I'm in my bed, right? I'm a little relieved. But then my eyes automatically shut down. Again the dream continues. This happens so many times, right? So that is because I was not fully woken up. I was partially woken up, right? Now if you don't want this misery altogether, if you don't want the misery completely, if you want to be free from the misery completely, what should you do? You should be fully woken up. It's for this reason that the Buddha is known as the fully awakened one. This is so precious, so precious. So what makes us think that when the Buddha is revered, one of the epithets of the Buddha is that he's the fully awakened one. So from this, we have to get the message, a very important message, that finally, if I want to practice dharma, which means the dharma taught by whom? Taught by not just ordinary person, taught by this enlightened being, the Buddha, who is referred to as the fully awakened one. I should also be awakened. How should I be awakened? By knowing that objectively nothing exists. It's all like dream. Only then I can awaken. So this, we need understanding of the emptiness. and the emptiness. So the emptiness concept, this is so precious, so precious. Just try to reflect on this epithet of the Buddha, that the Buddha revered as the fully awakened one. What does it mean by awakened one? When you awaken, you realize that whatever happened in the dream, they're all just empty from the object side. Emptiness of the objectivity. So this realization must come within us. Yes, Mithun, you have a question? Or?
Yes, Geshe. Geshe, when we wake up, we all these fears you mentioned, some of the fears like job, losing the dear ones, this is in a dream state. When we wake up, we realize that empty of any. But what about the consequences of, for example, if we don't fear the loss of job or loss of dear ones, but then there are consequences of this. For example, if a person...
Okay, let's say that if you don't have a fear of losing a job, right? And then, okay, it's fine. If I don't get a job, it's fine, right? And then you don't apply for a job. And because of which, then the next few months you remain hungry. There's no job, no money, so the hunger, pain, this is a consequence. And we cannot bear the pain of hunger, so that's a consequence. If you don't have the fear of loss of job, and then the consequence is there, right? Okay, so this is a question coming from the Western psychology. Western psychology question. Okay, I know this.
Because consequences are not empty.
No, listen. This I already said. I already supported your point. I said that we cannot bear the, okay, I'm hungry, let it be, it's fine. I did not say this. If I say this, then you can say that this is not a dream, right? You can say this. So I supported you, saying that the consequences are something which we cannot ignore, which we cannot bear. Okay, I acknowledge that already. Now the thing is that, say, when you speak about emptiness here, emptiness does not mean it does not exist at all. Then why should you be afraid? The job loss is totally non-existent. This is not what I'm saying. I'm saying job loss is dependently originated. Dependently originated how? Job loss? Maybe because you may be not so nicely, you may not be a nicely, softly spoken person. You may be more rough, if you know, in your job place, and your boss may be a little hurt and may have sacked you out. So, because that loss of job is dependent origination, it is not independently there, it is not objectively real, it is not independently there, which means it is dependently there. But dependence, one could be because of my not having a proper degree. Number two, because of my maybe harsh words. Number three, because of my lack of sensitivity to the other stuff, and so forth, right? If it is because of this, remove that factor. Remove that factor. By dependence on removing that factor, you will get the job. The job will originate as a result, right? So this is they say the emptiness in the context of dependent origination. If you understand it, then the problem will be over. So this question should be coming from someone who is coming to Tibet House on just day one, right? I'm not expecting this from Mithun, who has been with me for so long. Okay, anyway, the point is that, say, emptiness. The question is that we have to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. This is so precious. So the point is that any study that you encounter with about emptiness, this is what we have to value, right? So in our life, see, if we can design at least a short spell of time of practice on emptiness. If you can design this we must be kind to yourself. I should include myself. Be kind to ourselves. One. Number two, be wisely kind to ourselves. Don't forget these two things. Don't forget these two things. Right? How to be wisely kind to ourselves? Do what will remove your fear. Do what will bring genuine happiness. What will remove our fear is the wisdom of emptiness. However difficult it is, just struggle. Just try to not miss the chance to learn about emptiness, to reflect on emptiness. This is so important. One, just design, allocate a span of time, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes if not, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or like, so depending on your availability of time, so at least some a span of time for your meditation on emptiness. One, because this is the final healing factor for eradicating our fear of life. One. Number two, so this practice that you've been doing for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or half an hour, so forth, this practice at times it can become mechanical. Mechanical meaning that you may follow the steps on understanding emptiness, and then initially it may give you a very exciting experience, goosebumps come in the body, a tinge of fear, a tinge of peace of the mind, and so forth come into your mind, and then slowly it can become very mechanical, where not only this experience, all this experience disappear, there's no excitement at all there, it can become very mechanical. So how to keep it so vibrant still? It is through making this meditation rich. How to make it rich? By always reading a material on emptiness, by studying, by doing more extensive studies. Nowadays we are very fortunate to have His Holiness the Dalai Lama giving teachings on emptiness. Wherever he travels, wherever he gives teachings, he makes sure that the teaching on emptiness and bodhicitta is happening. So make sure that we, nowadays all these, even though you may go in person, you may not be able to go in person, but they're all available on internet. You can download them online, they're all available there. You can listen to these teachings on emptiness, or you just keep reading like this book. They are so beneficial. Just keep reading. Don't read like 20 pages a day. Then it may last you only 3 days. 3 days and then finish. Then you may not read at all. Just, if you can read, let's say 1 page a day, this itself is amazing success. If not, at least read 1 stanza a day from this book, for example, say. From this book, read 1 stanza and put a mark there. And the next day, you read another stanza. And then you just feel like dying to sleep, right? You just feel like, I have no energy left, now I have to go to sleep, right? Just read 1 stanza, even nothing really hits your mind, it doesn't matter. Read it and then put a mark and go to bed. And reading 1 stanza will take you how long? 4 or 5 seconds, finish. Just 4 or 5 seconds, and then you tell yourself, okay, I will sleep after 4 or 5 seconds. You read 1 stanza, right? So if this much, if you can do, then you see that your practice will always remain vibrant. And then slowly you will start experiencing something, that a deep feeling of confidence and fearlessness will start to dawn in you. And then you see that this is the meaning of my life. What's the meaning of my life? To tame my mind. For what? To deactivate from engaging in non-virtuous actions, evils. Right? Okay, so then this will help what? This help in bringing fearlessness in me. Okay, then the direct point is that with this, the fearlessness dawns in you, the fear dissolves. At the same time, you will know what? You will see things in the light of dependent origination. By seeing things like dependent origination, then you will look for the factors dependent on which the loss of job, the fear, and so forth arising. And then you will remove those factors depending on which the fears arise, and then you have the fearlessness, number 1, and then number 2, the job and so forth. Whatever you are not getting, you will get. Because there must be factors, there should be factors responsible for you not getting what you want. So when you remove those factors, then you will get what you want. So these are the practicalities, the benefit. Okay, with this we will go through some of the stanzas here. Okay, chapter 10, stanza 2 to 6. That's what the last time we did the stanza 1, but we will do them again. Okay, now, again, I can't, okay, I have to do this. So say, there are 2 things here. the experiences of pain and so forth. It's like the sound of a clap. Sound of a clap, right? Just the sound of a clap which is analogous to the miseries that we're going through. Sound of a clap which is analogous to the miseries that we're going through. Just as this sound of a clap arises by dependence on the two hands, likewise, all the miseries which we go through, they come to being by the combination of the two things, external factors and internal factors. External factors and internal factors. External factors, external world. Internal factors, I, or my mind. I, or my mind. Now, this I, or my mind, this is the subject. And external is the object. It is through the interplay of the object and subject that all these miseries arise. Okay. Now with this, tea is ready? Tea is ready? They do not know?
Yes.
Yeah, I would hear something from here. They must have entered from the other door. You must not have noticed that. Are ready? Okay. Chandan is singing the tea ready. You ready? Okay, now what is the question? The question is, the point is that the sound of a clap should necessarily arise by the combination of the two hands. Likewise, the sound of the clap of the miseries should necessarily come into being by the combination of the subject, interplay of the subject, internal, and the object, external. Interplay of the subject and object, then the sound of the misery arises. So now, how should this misery come to an end? By bringing an end to the subject or the object or both. How to bring an end? First, let's have a short tea break. Let's come back at 5:05. 5:05. Then we'll have another 20 minutes class. Then we'll stop here. Yeah. Okay, tea break, very quick. Left with this question. We are left with the question that, left with the point that all miseries that we go through, like the sound of a clap, should arise by the combination of the two factors, external and internal. And as to what is that external, what is that internal, there are so many, ways of understanding it. One way through which I'm trying to explain here is external in the form of the objects, and internal in the form of your mind or yourself as internal. And another way of understanding it is external in the form of seeing the object as objectively real, and internal as seeing the internal as the objectively real. Now, and still another way of understanding is that external things, for example, the Delhi heat, Delhi humidity, Delhi pollution, these are external factors. And internal, that why should I be in a place which is polluted? Why should I be in a place which is so hot? Why should I be in a place? Why my bad neighbor? Why should I be with a bad neighbor? So there is always inside negative thought, that is internal, and external factors. They like the bad weather and the bad food, bad environment, bad neighborhood, or whatever. These are external factors. There's so many ways of understanding what is external and internal. So in this context, what I'm saying is that our emotions, they arise through the combination of the two things, interplay of the two things, object and a subject. Object and subject. And when we see the object as objectively real, and not like a dream, when you see in the dream, when you see your, a nasty neighbor coming to harm you, or that is so seen as very real, the objectively real, the nasty person. And then you see yourself, actually you are lying down, you are fast asleep, but you see yourself as a very real, woken up person in a waking state. So this is the misconception happening within your mind. So likewise, what the Buddha has indicated now is that even in a waking state, we see ourselves as so objectively real. We see the objects with which we interact also as so objectively real. In actuality, everything is like a dream. Everything is like an illusion. This is what this is what we have to know. I don't want to say this is what the Buddha said. If I say this is what the Buddha said, then people get the impression that we have to believe in the Buddha. No, the Buddha said it, but the Buddha encourages us to subject them to analysis. So with this, what I'm saying is that this is the fact. Through analysis, we can discover that objects with which we interact and the subjects, our mind or ourselves, which interact with the object, they're all like dream. Okay, now if you object and subject, if you see the object as empty of objective reality, or the two hands, one drop, then it's like the sound of one clap. There's no sound. Sound of the misery stops. One way. Another way is seeing the subject as like a dream. Like a dream, subject is empty of objectivity, empty of objective existence. You drop it, again it's just the object. There's no sound. Again, sound stops. So now what we're learning from chapter 10 is how to remove the hand of seeing the subject as objectively real, as how to see the subject, our own self, the person, as like a dream. So this is the chapter 10. Now, as opposed to what we should be knowing, that our basic belief has the feeling that I exist so objective, as so real. I exist so real. This is our basic belief. We all have this. This belief is the one which traps us in samsara endlessly. Right? So if we really want to get out of samsara, we have to do something. We have to do something to get rid of this belief. Believing that this I exist so objectively real. Okay, now for this, the question arises. This self, this I, does it exist? This is the question. This is a very important question. And in fact, don't miss the two questions. One, this I, the subject, the I. Subject here, there are so many concepts. The subject in the form of I, the person, the subject in the form of my mind. Two things. Now, at the moment, chapter 10 is discussing more on this subject in the form of the I or the person, the self. So this person, does it exist or not? This is a question. Question one. And many people who believe themselves to be following the Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist material philosophy, they think that this I does not exist. And in fact, I met with some of the professors who are well-respected professors, and they say, well, in Buddhism there's no self, there's nothing. It's selflessness, because there is this word, selflessness. So they take it so literally. Oh, in Buddhism there's no self. This is a total mistake. This is a total mistake. There are two questions. These people, they are unaware of these two questions. The first question is, does the self exist? Of the two hands, this hand, seeing the self as objectively real. To eliminate this, to make only one hand, then the sound stops. So for this we have to remove one hand. So to remove the first hand, seeing the self as objectively real, that must be eliminated. To remove that, we should know two questions. If you don't know the two questions, then you can never resolve this problem and this hand can never come down. What are the two questions? First, does this self exist? This self, does it exist? This is the first question. Answer is yes. Never say no. The self exists. Then what about selflessness? The Buddha taught the selflessness. The four seals of the Buddha's teaching. Third one, everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. The Buddha taught selflessness. So what is this selflessness? So that comes in relation to the second question. What is the second question? How does the self exist? The first question is, does the self exist? The answer is yes. If you say no, the basic Buddhist principle is lost. If the self is not there, then who is going to become enlightened? Who wants to become enlightened? May I become Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. May I become Buddha. So this enthusiasm, may this I become Buddha. If this I is non-existent, how can he or she aspire to become a Buddha? So this is the total lack of understanding of the Buddha's teachings. If the answer to the first question is no, whereas the answer should be yes. Does this self exist? The answer is yes. Then why the Buddha taught the selflessness? That is not really in relation to the first question. That is in relation to the second question. What is the second question? How does the self exist? If the self exists, how does it exist? Does it exist objectively or subjectively? This question. So how does it exist? It exists subjectively. Then objectively, what is there? Empty. Right? So the self is empty from the object. The self is objectively empty. Self exists how? The self exists subjectively. Self does exist. Question number 2. How does it exist? It exists subjectively. It is empty of objectivity. It exists subjectively. It is empty of objectivity. So here, when you say the self does not exist objectively, this is a connotation of the selflessness. The self is less. The self is empty from the object side. So, what the Buddha taught, the selflessness, is pertaining to the second question, not pertaining to the first question. Oftentimes people think that Buddhism is nihilistic, thinking that in Buddhism there's no self, there's nothing except nothing. So this is a total failure of the understanding of the Buddha's teachings, failing to distinguish the two questions discreetly. Okay, so to the second question, how does the self exist? We have to learn, we have to know, we have to rationally understand that the self exists subjectively as opposed to objectively. In other words, self is empty of objective existence. So now while this is the truth, but how we see the self is we always see the self, even in the dreams, we see the self as so objectively real. Right? Okay. What does it mean by objectively real? What does it mean by subjectively real? This is another question which is so important for us to know. Okay. Let's say we are watching a movie. You are watching a movie in a movie theater. And so the movie that you're watching, this is coming from where? Where is the movie? Where is the movie? It's on the screen. And where is this movie coming from? From the projector. And where is the projector? On the screen or behind you? Is behind you. You getting it? So our mind is like the projector, and where we are seeing the objects is like on the screen. You getting it? Okay. Now, when we say that everything exists subjectively, means all this movie is coming from the projector is like the subject, and the screen is like the object. All this movie is coming from where? From the screen or from the projector or from the screen? Projector is like the screen, the object or the subject. Subject. So all this what you're seeing on the movie, that is coming from the projector, not from the screen. So projector is like the subject. So all what you see on the screen is coming from the subject, not from the object. You getting it? So from the object, it's empty. It's all coming from. It's empty from the object. Then where does it come from? It's all coming from the subject. Okay. This is what we have to know. Likewise, everything that exists, that comes into existence, they all exist by the projector like our mind. Projector like mind. They all come from a mind, right? So the question is, if they are all coming from the mind, then from the object what is there? From the object is all empty. But does it mean that nothing exists? Things do exist. Two questions, don't forget. Do things exist? Answer is yes. What is the second question? If they exist, how do they exist? Subjectively, objectively, they exist. Subjectively. Objectively, they are all empty. Okay, this is what we have to know. Now, chapter 10, it rejects our innate, our spontaneous, our natural, our innate way of thinking of the self. While the reality is that the self exists subjectively, every moment, every single moment of our life, we see ourselves as existing objectively, including in the dream. Even in a dream, we see ourselves as existing objectively. So this is the greatest of our enemies. This is the greatest of enemies which trap us. What is an enemy? Enemy is someone who creates harm on you. Likewise, this belief that I exist objectively, this is the one which attracts the worst of the harm, which is all the fears of life, all the fears of samsara. Okay, so now, so what chapter 10 is explaining how our innate feeling of the objectivity of the self, seeing the self as objective real, is wrong. This is what is being taught there. So, although it involves philosophical discussions amongst the different philosophical traditions, but what we have to keep in mind is that this is not to reject the other philosophical schools. It is to reject our innate wrong thoughts, including the self-grasping ignorance. We see the self as so permanent. Okay, so all of us, I don't see anyone who is younger than, say, 20 years, maybe 22, 23, 24. Okay, there. Samgila, how old? How old are you? 24. Then the Yola, how old are you? Huh? 21. Okay, let's say 21. So we all have our, at least like 21 years of life experience. We all have that experience. At least like 21 years of life experience. Okay, so imagine, just go back in time. Go back in time and imagine that you are 10 years old now. And by the way, do you have memory of when you were 10 years old? Do you have the memory? When you were 10 years old? May not be so vivid. Be it vague, it doesn't matter. Do you have the memory, anyone? When you were 10 years old, do you have the memory? Most of us have. 10 years old. Who have the memory when you were 3 years old? Anyone? 3 years old? 4 years old? 5 years? Okay, that's 10 years. 10 years, most of us, we have the memory. 10 years, we were which class? Generally speaking, which class? 5th? Okay, that's 5th. When you were class 5, you remember? Okay, let's say we go back in when we were 10 years old. Okay, imagine that you are a 10 years old girl. No, 10 years old girl. Imagine that you are a 10 years old girl and 10 years old boy. Okay, imagine. Then you think of this feeling of I. Think of it. Think of this feeling. I. Okay, I'm 10 years old. How old are you? I am 10 years old. There's the feeling of I coming in you. Okay, now imagine you were 17 years old when you are about to finish your class 12. When you're 17 years old now, after 7 years. Okay, now, how old are you? Okay, now, tell yourself, I'm 17 years old. Again, this feeling of I. Right? Okay, now, when you're 21 years old, 23 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, whatever age you are in, I'm asking you, how old are you? Okay, I'm 21 years old, I'm 20 years old, I'm 30 years old, I'm 40 years old, okay, whatever age that you are. Again, there's a feeling of I. Tell me, what is the difference in the feeling of this I? When you thought I was 10 years old, I was 17 years old, and then I'm now whatever age you are. So this I associated with this 10 years, 17 years, and whatever age you are now. So what's the difference in this I? Is it the same or there's a difference? Huh? Huh?
Stronger.
The feeling may be stronger, but they say, for example, say when I have no interest in the flower, still I can see the flower, right? Still I can see the flower. When somebody says, this flower is very expensive, how come that you got this flower? Then I start to cling to it, right? But I still see this as a flower. In both cases, they're feeling the cognitive side, the cognitive element of the mind, that there's a flower there, that this flower is a pink flower, this is rose flower. This is the same in both cases. But it becomes stronger, greater affinity. When somebody says, this is very expensive flower, then my affinity increases to that. But in both cases, seeing this as a flower, seeing this as a pink flower, seeing this as a rose flower, this remains the same. Likewise, this feeling of I per se, when you were 10 years old, 17 years old, now, Is it the same or different? Different? What way?
It may be different. The I which is now is much more mature than the I which is now.
Okay, that's true. This is when you think about philosophically, right? Or if you said, oh, who's more mature? This is not the question. My question is, when you think that, how old are you, right? I'm not saying how mature you are. This is not my question. My question is, how old are you? Who are you? Okay, that's better. Old, again, maturity is coming. Who are you? When you were 10 years old, you say that, I am Dipesh. When you're 7 years old, again you say, I'm Dipesh. When you are now, whatever age you are now, I'm Dipesh. Or I'm Dawa. So you said the same answer when you were 10 years old, when you were 15 years old, when you are certain age now, today, right? In all these cases, you say, when you say, I am Dawa, I am Dorji, I am this I, does this I appear to you as the same or different? Okay, so I would suggest you to reflect more. So generally speaking, it is the same coming, same. But don't just believe what I'm saying, right? If it appears the same, which means this I is not changing. This I is seen as permanent. In fact, it was 2 days ago. No, yesterday. It was just yesterday. No, 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, again, somebody came to me, and who's already like 50 years now. And the person said that, that's true that we're aging, but I could not imagine myself as becoming old. This I, it feels so youthful as 20 years ago. Do you feel the same thing? We feel the same thing, right? That's a fact. So, in fact, I could not believe when I was younger, so who were like 20, 30 years older than me, when they said, oh, we are aging, but I don't feel that I'm aging. I feel as though I'm so young today, right? In fact, there was one gentleman who I met like, I think 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was in my 20s myself. And then the gentleman, he was complaining of having a knee problem, right? Then I was trying to console him, okay, it should go right. And he said, I don't know why it happened to me, the knee problem, because I'm not at all old. And then I asked, how old are you? I'm just 75. He said that, I'm just 75, I'm not really old. So why is this knee problem coming on me? So he said it. So I could not really imagine, this is, the person must be saying what's coming to his mind. Okay, so the point is that, okay, anyway, what I'm saying is that we have the feeling of this I, which exists 20 years ago, say like when you were 10 years old, 17 years old, 20 years old, now. So this I, we feel as though like it's just the same thing. Same means it does not change. If it doesn't change, it is permanent, right? Permanent. And then we might also have the feeling that it is, so to say, it is like the owner. It has the ownership. It appropriates, or it has the ownership over the body, over my mind. There's also like this separate I, right? This kind of feeling comes to us. Permanent, unitary, separate, something unitary. And then that because it is separate from the parts, then it is independent. Because the parts are dependent, so if it is not the parts, then it should be independent. Permanent, unitary, independent. So something of this kind of this self can appear to our mind. Okay, so this is what is being rejected here, right? So when you dissolve such a solidified version of the self, then the self becomes what? Self does exist. Then if it does not exist as so solidly from the object, where should it exist from? The only possibility left is that it should exist from the subject, not from the object, right? If it exists from this subject, then what about the object? From the object, it is empty. So then if it's purely subject, it's purely coming from your mind, then it becomes like a dream. Dream is coming purely coming from your mind, or is coming from the object? The dream is purely coming from our mind. So therefore, if this self does exist, and if it exists, if it's nothing there from the object, then it's purely coming from our mind. It becomes like a dream. Okay. So once you come to know that it is like a dream, when do you realize the dream is dream? In the dream, or also when you wake up from the dream? Only when you wake up. In the dream, you don't see that the dream that you're having is not seen as a dream. You see that's real. Okay, don't give me some examples, one or two examples, where people could identify the dream as dream. In the dream, it happens rarely. It does happen to some people, right? Through training, it can happen. Also through training, it can happen. And even without training, some people can have it. To identify the dream as dream in the dream. It does happen, but rarely, right? Okay, yes, Badriji.
Firstly, I'm really happy to see you again. And
Thank you.
I've been having so many questions in the meantime, and I hope you'll allow me to raise one just now. You started with the statement that all our miseries arise because of the combination of external and internal factors. Am I to understand that this statement is valid when we are within the dream or outside the dream?
Very good question. Very good question. Okay, this question is coming from the point of view of having come to Tibet House for a few years. So those of you who are coming not really for a few years, so this requires a little bit of background information. So this is about, say, perspectives. Say, okay, what example should I give now? Okay, let's say, Debeshla, you remember your mother's name? What is your mother's name? Ranjan. What is your grandmother's name? Mother's name? Mukta. Okay, let's say Mukta is Debeshji's grandmother, and Ranjanji is Debeshji's mother. Okay, Ranjanji, is she a mother or she is a daughter? Huh? Depends on the frame of reference, exactly. Right? Okay. Same with respect to Dibeshi, Ranjanji is the mother. With respect to Muktaji, Ranjanji is the daughter. From the object side, it doesn't make sense as a daughter or the same mother. You're getting it? Likewise, now it is going into that philosophy. With respect to waking up, the dream content, the dream fear, the dream, say, all these, the factors happening in the dream, they do not count. With respect to the dreamer, in the dream, everything in the dream counts, right? Counts. So which means that while we are still dreaming, while we are yet to achieve the total enlightenment, we are still in the dream. While we're in the dream, we have to take care of law of karma and everything. Make sure that we engage in good things, commit no evils, engage in as what of virtues as possible, subdue your mind. All these things we have to do while we are still in the dream. These things we have to take care of. Once you wake up, you don't have to worry about the content of the dreams. You see, you are fully waken up, you have already gone to the transcendental level. Right? Okay, this is a very important question and very important at the point that we need to finally reach after getting a clue, after getting a glimpse of what the reality is, that objectively nothing is there, it's all coming from our mind. Right? Even the mind does not exist objectively. That is so precious.
So, follow-up question.
Yes.
So, we say that we can understand emptiness of objective existence in the light of dependent origination. So, from the frame of reference of someone who has awakened,
who is awakened fully. Partially, fully, there are two. Arhats partially, Bodhisattvas partially. Only the Buddha is fully.
So it's only in the frame of reference of someone who has awakened fully that the dependent origination or law of karma you're saying would supersede that?
Not really supersede. Supersede is a frame of reference. Same with respect to us, the Buddha is still within the frame of reference of the cause effect, right? Say it is by dependence. Dependent origin still operates from our point of view on the Buddha with respect to us as the frame of reference. With respect to the Buddha as the frame of reference, then all these things, Buddha is into what? Into the ultimate domain. In the ultimate domain, nothing exists. From the object side, nothing exists. So it is for this reason that the Buddha abides in the two truths simultaneously. Ultimate truth, conventional truth simultaneously. Right? So this is, okay, this concept, unless the emptiness is introduced properly, it is better not to touch this area for the time being. This can create a big misconception. And because of it, then the undermining of the law of karma can happen. It's very dangerous. Right? So therefore, first let's wait. Anyway, this is Badriji's key. We have to blame Badriji. He brought this question. Okay, so for this we have to at least study the Madhyamaka Avatar. We have to study Madhyamaka Avatar. We have to get some experience with that, and then all these questions will come into play. That would be amazing, the great feast for us. Okay, now at least we have to go stanza 1, because after this we have the Buddha episode screening. Buddha episode screening, which is so precious. Okay, at least we'll go the stanza 1. When the inner self is not female, male or neutral, it is only out of ignorance that you think your own self is male. Okay, so this inner self connoting that our belief that the self which is permanent, unitary, independent, or other philosophical schools which articulate what we feel of the self. The self is permanent, unitary, independent. If such a self exists as independent of the body, independent of the mind, then what happens? Then we describe ourselves as a male or female on the basis of our body. And if this self is independent of the body, then the self should not have the gender. You getting it? Self should not have a gender if the self is independent of the body. Right? Okay, let's see. What's the color of this tissue? White. So my hand, which is wrapped in this tissue, is this independent of the tissue? Yes, it is. Right? Because that this hand is independent of the tissue, so the hand should not necessarily be white, because whiteness is the tissue's color, this paper's color, and because that this hand is independent of the two entities, different entity, simultaneously existing different entity with the tissue, we can separate it. So this white color is there, and my hand which is non-white. So likewise, if this is the body, and if this is the self, then if the body and the self, these two are like the hand and the tissue as independent, when you remove the body, when the self comes out, the body is there, then the gender is what? Male, femaleness is the body. So this has no gender now. You getting it? So self should have no gender. So it says, when the inner self is not female, male or neutral, it is only out of ignorance that you think your own self as male. You getting it? Okay. So this is how we understand it one way. That if such a self exists as independent from the body, then such a self should not have gender. Then how do we describe yourself as male? How do you describe yourself as female? So this should be all coming out of ignorance, to one. Number 2. Now, the same stanza can be interpreted in another way. When the inner self is not male, female, or neutral, which means, say, from your point of view, when you speak about the table and the top line of the table, the building and the wall of the building, right? Building and the wall of the building. Besides the wall of the building, remove the wall of the building, remove the ceiling, remove the floor. What is the building? What is the essence of the building? There is no essence. So, when the inner self, the essence, when the inner self is not findable that way, when the inner self is not findable, when you remove the body, when you remove the mind, the self disappears. So, when the inner self is not there, when it is not there, then the inner self is not male, female, and so forth. When it's not there, then it is only out of ignorance. Then we conceive as I am. You don't say that my body is male, my body is female. We don't say this. We say what? I am male, I am female. Where is this I, which is the male, female? Right? The body is not you. So where is this I, which is male, female? So this I, because there's such an inner self to be described as I, is totally absent. It is not male, it is not female. So therefore, what makes us describe as knowing that such a self does not exist? Still we describe ourselves as male or female. This is only coming out of the ignorance. Right? Okay, I'm sure that some of you may be the first time and may not be coming again very often. So let me say, okay, let's say, I am where, Chandan, you say where, re, dawala, ha, and Pushkarji, P. I am very happy. Okay, louder. Say this. Louder, they should hear.
I am
Very
very
happy.
What did you hear? The rest, what did you hear? I am very happy. Okay, imagine that these 6 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these 6 people are put in the box. And you could hear a sound, banging sound, right? And you're concerned that there's someone there inside this box, right? Oh, and the person inside did not have food the last 10 hours. So you're concerned. You bang in the box and ask, how are you?
I am
Very
very
happy.
What did you hear? You heard that, I'm very happy. Okay, now you're relieved. You're relieved, right? You're relieved. And then, just to say hello, you break in the box and you got in. You see that everyone is so hungry, dying to eat something. No one is happy. But you said that, you're happy? I'm never happy. You're happy? No, I'm very hungry. You. No one said that. No one said that. I said happy. Did you hear that I'm very happy? Did you hear? Yes, we all heard it. Okay, if you don't believe, again ask the question. How are you? Ask this. Hey, ask the question. Rest of you, ask the question.
How are you?
I am
Very
very
happy.
What did you hear? You undeniably heard that somebody said, I am very happy. You undeniably heard it. But when you come in, you ask, nobody said it. Did you say this? I'm very happy. You're very hungry. Did you say this? 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 Nobody said it. But you undeniably heard it. This is ignorance which combines these 6 syllables together, and you get an impression that somebody said, I'm happy. This is illusion. This is ignorance. So this is how everything is coming by the power of a mind. How a mind conglomerates things and then create a concept, and then we operate on that basis. Okay, we'll stop here.